Today we're looking at why the 3-year-old original Razer Wolverine Ultimate is better and cheaper than the new and improved Razer Wolverine V2 Chroma. Both of these are premium wired controllers from Razer that share a lot of the same features, such as 4 rear buttons, mecha tactile switches, swappable thumbsticks, trigger stops, RGB lighting, and rubberized grips. However, there are missing included accessories and features that are not on the V2 Chroma, and the overall build quality and ergonomic comfort of the original Wolverine is substantially better. Let's get it. Now, I did review the Razer Wolverine Ultimate about 2 years ago, compared it to some of the controllers out at the time, like the Elite Series 1, and I have done a comprehensive review about 3 weeks ago of the Razer Wolverine V2 Chroma. These will all be linked in the description below. God, that's satisfying. More premium and custom controller companies really ought to be using mechanical switches. O-U-G-H-T, ought. They ought to be doing it. I'm gonna lay you guys out on my table, not because I'm feeling a little bit frisky. It's so we can figure out exactly why the 3-year-older, $50 cheaper Ultimate Original is a better controller. Now, the original Razer Wolverine Ultimate retailed for a price of $160, and the Wolverine V2 Chroma retailed for $150, so $10 cheaper. During the same time frame of the Razer Wolverine Ultimate, Razer also released the Wolverine Tournament, which is a 2 rear button controller, not 4 rear button, and also did away with this microphone block, swappable thumbsticks, a carrying case, and a couple of other features. But we are going to focus on the 4 rear button options from Razer, their last generation and their current generation, and why this controller is a much better controller, not only in build quality and some of the features and included accessories, but now this is also substantially cheaper. This can be had on Amazon right now for $90 US, and this is on sale for $140 US. And the reasoning behind that is this was released April 1st of 2019, and this came out in 2021. So much like a car dealership at the end of the year when they get the new model years, you can find a tremendous value on the old stock that has been discontinued by the manufacturer, as this has been discontinued by Razer and they are only focusing on producing the V2 Chroma. The vendors like Amazon, Walmart, Best Buy, etc. slash the prices in order to get the remaining stock sold so they can fill their shelves with the new model. So as you can see, the packaging is very similar, black and of course lime green, as these are licensed Xbox products. They do not have wireless connectivity. These are wired only controllers. Okay, thumbstick's just popping right out there. That's what you like to see, because there's no carrying case with the new model. So you do have some foam on the top and also encasing your controller, and then you have your accessories and plug down here in the bottom. And you do have 2 swappable thumbsticks. However, the options offered in the new version simply aren't as good. As for the included accessories with the original Wolverine Ultimate, you do get a carrying case, you do get 4 swappable magnetic thumbsticks, you do get a 10-foot braided micro USB cable, and a swappable D-Pad. And the included thumbsticks are 2 short concave sticks, 1 short dome stick, and 1 long, not really long, it's longer than a standard shaft, if you will, but it's still pretty short. It's not really satisfying anybody. Control freaks don't work unless you jerry-rig it on there. However, there are some generic third-party caps, kind of the condom style ones that just slip over to the tip, that do work with these if you want to get a little bit more height on that right stick. But a long concave stick, which is actually less concave than a lot of sticks, it's almost completely flat, and it is also a much wider surface area than virtually any other premium or custom controller on the market. As for the D-pad options, you do have this 4-way separated D-pad, as well as a wheel, which is great for fighting games, busting out those slick combos, and I also just like the cosmetic design of a wheeled D-pad as well. Now with the Razer Wolverine V2 Chroma, which by the way, the naming convention is a little bit wonky. Technically, this controller should just be called the Wolverine 2. However, since a year prior, Razer released a controller simply called the Chroma that retailed for $100 US and had no rear buttons. That has also been reviewed on this channel. They decided to run with the Chroma and just jumble some words together and call this the V2 Chroma Wolverine Ultimate. Weird. Now, one generational leap that I do like is this is now a USB-C cable, not micro USB, still 10-foot braided, of course. And the thumbstick options are now a very short dome stick, 2 pretty short concave sticks, and 1 medium-sized concave stick. So there really is no high right stick on the Chroma V2, so you're definitely going to want to get yourself some kind of a thumbstick extender. But as you notice, we're missing a couple of things here. There is no swappable D-pad, no carrying case, and worse swappable thumbstick options. What about the actual controllers themselves? Well, that's where we get into the real differences of why the Wolverine Ultimate Original beats the tits off the new V2 Chroma. So the one pro or benefit where the V2 Chroma pulls ahead, these both use Razer's mecha tactile mechanical switches, which much like their gaming keyboards and mice, have a very nice crisp tactile click as they are mechanical switches. And that is a big noticeable upgrade over standard and also all other premium and custom controllers that are still using a membrane design with a rubber plunger under there and just feel a little bit mushy. They have better feedback, you get a nice tactile click letting you know that you successfully hit the button.
These also last substantially longer as they are rated for several million clicks, and they are faster. So if you're using this for competitive use, there's been a lot of testing on how quick these face buttons are, and they are actually a lot more responsive and actuate much quicker than traditional membrane switches. And on the V2 Chroma, the face buttons are actually better. These are now raised up slightly and a more rounded design, and you do also get a more satisfying tactile click. First of all, as you can see, ergonomically, they are using a completely remolded shell design, and this is supposed to be substantially more comfortable. This would be comfortable for somebody with very large hands. However, if you have small or average size hands, I would say, the traditional Wolverine uses damn near identical the same ergonomics as an Xbox One or Series controller, and this feels ergonomically more comfortable. They both do have a rubberized grip. However, you do get a lot more grip and also just general comfort from the grips on the original Wolverine. These are kind of slick, and I've also heard horror stories in the community of these starting to peel up around the bumper area. Next up, having swappable thumbsticks but no carrying case to actually hold these bad boys. A lot of people are complaining about losing these, and it's actually relatively hard to find replacements for the Wolverine, as it does not have as much aftermarket support with third-party companies like the Microsoft Elite and some other premium controllers on the market. Like I mentioned, it did retail for $10 cheaper than the original at $150 versus $160, and yes, cutting out the carrying case might have been part of that. However, they are noticeably using substantially cheaper plastics. If you go from holding one to the other, you will immediately notice that there is not only thicker, but also higher quality, denser plastics on the Ultimate Original. This just feels like a toy, but the plastics just feel incredibly cheap and chintzy, and this actually extends to these rear buttons over here. They do still have a very similar feel. The plastics here just feel cheaper than the original back buttons. Now, ergonomically, this is virtually the same design, so you can cover all four of them simultaneously, pretty comfortably, and then when you don't need them, you just hold the controller regularly. This design does take some getting used to, I will admit that, but after about 6 hours of stick time, they're actually pretty comfortable. Weird little note though, they don't use the same Mecha Tactile switches in the back buttons, which is weird because these two additional bumpers that they add are mechanical. Face buttons, mechanical. D-pad, not mechanical on the original, but it is mechanical on the V2 Chroma, so that is another perk or benefit. But then on the rear buttons, which are going to be used substantially more than the face buttons, if somebody's using this for first-person shooters, which they probably are, why not use the same satisfying Mecha Tactile switches back there, you know what I mean? Next up, the V2 Chroma now does not have this audio block, which controls your 3.5mm headphone jack, and this was a very welcome feature. You could mute your mic on the fly, so even if you have a headset with a mute function, you still don't have to reach up in gameplay. You can just press it on the controller. You can also adjust the game volume from 5 settings on the fly, switch audio profiles, and change your game and chat blend. Next up, the trigger stops on the original Wolverine, in my opinion, are substantially more effective. The new Wolverine still has a substantial trigger pull, even with the trigger stops engaged, as it only cuts out about 40% of your trigger pull. As we're on the Wolverine, it cuts out about 65 to 70% of the trigger pull, which still aren't great. There are controllers like the Elite 2, which at its highest setting, as it does have 3-way trigger stops, cuts out about 90-95% of the trigger pull to where it is just the tiniest little click. So the trigger stops are more effective on this controller. Next up, this one is strictly cosmetic and definitely opinion based, as everyone sees beauty differently. However, I do like the RGB effect on the original Wolverine more, and the main reason for this is you can still clearly see it when you're holding the controller, as we're now, it is in these lines or bars around the grips here, which most of which is covered by your hand when you're holding it. Yes, you can still see it on the sides here, and a little bit right there where your palm's at, but you're covering the majority of it, not to mention, in my opinion, just having a tiny little LED bar around the chin here looked a lot more classy. That is a pretty pet peevey one and very minuscule and doesn't affect the performance of these controllers, but just a little cosmetic note. But the biggest one, in my opinion, is just the fact that this ergonomically feels less comfortable and it feels substantially cheaper. And that extends to these rear back buttons. So all technical comparisons and specifications aside, just the gamer factor of how this thing feels in your hand, the original Wolverine Ultimate is substantially more comfortable. And then you bring up the fact that this is now $50 cheaper because it's the older model. This is currently $90 brand new. This is currently $140 brand new. And at that price, people know it's a good deal. It's 44% off its original MSRP, meaning people are going to be scooping these controllers up. And I strongly recommend that you do.
At the end of the day, the best way to make a decision for yourself is to try both of these controllers. Perhaps try a Buddies, or now several Walmarts have a partnership with Razer where they showcase their products on display, such as keyboards, mice, and controllers, or you can order both of them on Amazon and return the loser. But the fact of the matter is, the supply of Wolverine Ultimate Originals will eventually dry up. While these were mass-produced, they are being scooped up left and right at this price. They are both linked in the description below, and I advise you to hold both of them and do your own research. But in my personal opinion, as someone that's been reviewing and comparing premium and custom controllers for 3 years with over 3 dozen reviews under their belt, that sounded like a hard flex. It's not. I just wanted to give you my credentials. The Razer Wolverine Ultimate is a better controller. If you enjoyed this honest controller comparison, liking the video will help it to get seen by more controller gamers. This information will reach and assist them as well. Subscribe for more content like this. I cover news in the gaming community and industry, tutorials helping you get set up streaming and YouTubing, and honest gaming peripheral reviews, keyboards, mice, headsets, controllers, mics, chairs, etc. I have a link to my merch store as well as an exclusive discount code for my viewership at aimcontrollers.com. Down there in the description below, check me out at Facebook Gaming where I am a partner and upload exclusive gameplay footage, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.